Welcome to the presentation for Management 320, Fundamentals of Entrepreneurship Online. This presentation is really about what's going on in the entrepreneurial mind and creativity. How do you come up with new business ideas or concepts? Our key objectives are fairly straightforward. We're going to learn the value of creativity and innovation and identifying entrepreneurial activities. The idea behind entrepreneurship is you want to create something new. So creativity and innovation can help come up with new, innovative ideas that others had not thought of before. And at the end, I have an activity which you'll do in your group discussions, where you can exercise some of your opportunity scanning talents. In other words, can you activate that part of your mind to come up with some new ideas based off a set of circumstances that I provide you? So first off, it all begins with opportunity scanning, which is the ability to assess the external or the internal environment for new business opportunities and possibilities. External environment, of course, is those outside of your existing business or yourself. Internal, looking inside. There's a phrase called entrepreneurship, where within a large corporation, sometimes there's an opportunity to bring the entrepreneurial skills and talents to the internal dynamics of a company to come up with something new. The great example is 3M. 3M, a large organization that makes various industrial and office supplies. One of their entrepreneurship creations was a Post-it notes. That idea didn't come from the outside, but came from inside 3M, which launched an entire new division for the company. So for opportunity scanning, you can look outward, which is the traditional view, but also in organizations looking inward. Here at West Oahu, a great example of entrepreneurship will be creating new programs using the resources we currently have here at West Oahu. When it comes to opportunity scanning, what we want to really look at is creativity and innovation. For creativity, it's all about the ability to develop new ideas and to discover new ways of looking at a problem or opportunity. So thinking of new things. Whereas innovation, which plays upon creativity, but it's the ability to apply those creative solutions to problems and opportunities. In other words, the actual doing of new things. Within the creative process, according to our textbook, we have their 7 steps. They say go through these 7 steps to come up with creative concepts, which takes an idea all the way to actual implementation. So we'll start with preparation. You need to prepare the mind to think differently, to explore new venues, to be more aware of the circumstances of what's going on around itself and beyond itself. Preparation, I always like to use an analogy to sports. We always say championships aren't won during the season, they're won in the preseason. We're preparing your body for the challenges that come ahead. Same concept with entrepreneurship and creativity. You need to prepare your mind to view the world differently. Maybe you can do a lot of readings, expanding your view, new horizons, getting the brain to exercise strength and look beyond what it's normally trained to do. Investigation. Asking those questions. Why? How? Don't just take things for granted. Look further. Try to explore the meaning behind different things in your surroundings, things you may have taken for granted. Today, we always say, are you Googling things? It's so easy if you see something out there that you're a little bit curious about, to simply get out your phone and do a Google search on it. The other day, I was watching TV, and there was they had some actor on. I thought, who is this actor? Am I willing to actually take that little bit of effort to try to find out who the person is, investigate the past work to understand where they come from? Do I have that inquisitive mind? Or do you simply say, the actor's on TV, it's good enough for me, let's move on? Same in the world of business. Why are certain businesses successful? Where did that business come from? What inspired that business? Those are the questions you may be asking, but are you willing to do the research to look into it and seek answers for what you want to find? Transformation. This is the idea of combining both divergent and convergent thinking. So divergent thinking, starting from a common place and going in different directions. Convergent is taking diverse ideas and bringing them, uniting them, coming together in one. On the surface, to be thinking both divergently and convergently, it seems to be counterintuitive because they don't really match up with each other. But the idea here is from one simple thought, can you spread out through different perspectives that's gained through preparation and investigation to see the world differently, come up to new ideas. And also for convergence, can you take all those new ideas, which may seem unconnected at first, bring them together, connect it for your use? Incubation. The idea behind incubation is that creativity doesn't happen all at once. And even though you may have an idea in mind, it takes a while for it to really process in the brain, to think about it. You may have a partial picture of what you want, but in time, and to wait, let it sit in your mind, view it, think about it in different ways, until finally you come to that eureka moment or the illumination. For the illumination, that light bulb going off, you get it. You see how all the parts connect. During incubation, the previous stage, your mind is still trying to wrap itself around the new concept, but here for illumination, it comes through. You have your idea, your vision for what it's going to be. Verification, sometimes called more of the prototyping stage, is whether you see that illumination, that idea, it can actually work. Maybe you could create as you see down here, we have the prototype for a 3-wheeled car called the Nissan Glide. So there's an actual Nissan electric vehicle. We're creating it to see if it's actually possible. In the automobile world, they do these concept cars, leading ultimately to implementation, where the lessons learned from verification can be changed, altered to create the final product, and then taking that final product and moving it further and actually implementing it. Because in the world of business, particularly for entrepreneurship, simply coming up with an idea or a product is only half the battle. You still need to market it, get it out to the world, produce it, and do it, of course, a financially viable way. Oh, by the way, this vehicle here, this is the BMW electric car, not the Nissan Glide. Creativity can be very difficult to work on, very difficult to study, which is why it truly deserves its own course. But that being said, we do understand enough about it and can talk about it on simpler terms to come up with some ideas and concepts that cause problems, why some people seem to have trouble for creativity. So we're going to come up next is a series of barriers to creativity. If you can get rid of these barriers, you can hopefully start getting the creative process flowing in your mind. First off, searching for one right answer. There are very few problems, if any problems in this world, that can only be solved through one way. If you're only looking for that one way, you're never going to get it. What you need to do is recognize that there are multiple ways to approach the situation, and just because other people tried one way and been successful that way doesn't mean that's the right answer. That you can find other ways to do it. So you need to explore various opportunities and paths. Focusing on being logical. Logical works when things are expected and planned out and you know what to do. When you don't know it and you're dealing with the unknown, logical can kind of hurt you because it prevents you from going down paths that may not seem to be right or may be going in the wrong direction initially. Blindly following the rules. Well, rules are great for organizations and those that need structure, but the creative process often excels when you have those who are willing to push the rules or go against the rules and do things that aren't supposed to be there. They are the ones who tend to discover new paths. We always use the example of Columbus. Everybody said the world was flat. The rule of the world was the world's flat, but he didn't want to follow that. He wanted to find new ways. And while many people say that's not creativity, that's discovery. And part of the creative process is the road to discovery. Constantly being practical. Practicality is good. It's safe. It goes with what is known and tries to maximize the efficiency. But with creativity, you're dealing with that which is unknown and trying to go in new directions, where practical approaches may not always be the proper approach. Viewing play as frivolous. Well, play, there's a Google commercial which talks about the power of play from a poem. Play, we believe, energizes the mind, gives you more freedom of expression, freedom of thought, willing to test and go in directions that normally you would not, because you're not scared or worried about being logical or practical. Play also releases intrinsic motivation that pushes us to go in directions where there may be no real reason to go there. But because we're curious and excited, we're willing to move there. Over-specialized. Today's world, we tend to often talk about we don't need a specialized knowledge to be a specialist. That can be true, but it also tends to cause problems for creativity because as you become more specialized, you lose the ability for the convergent and divergent thinking, bringing different perspectives in together, or taking an approach and moving in multiple ways that may make you uncomfortable because it's not in the field or area that you know well. Avoiding ambiguity. Now the key here is avoiding ambiguity. So you actually want to be ambiguous when it comes to creativity. Because sometimes steps in the process may get a little complicated, cause problems, cause confusion, and that can slow you down. In other words, you get too worried in the details that don't allow you to seek out the greater vision, the greater creativity or idea that will come in time. Fear of looking foolish. I guess you could also combine this one with fear of mistakes and fear of failure. You already know what I feel about failure, particularly for this class. So what if you fail? Nothing great was created overnight. It takes time. Nothing new was created overnight. It takes time. Some of the most creative ideas did look incredibly foolish when they first came out. Who would have ever thought that somebody would have any value for a glue that was really, really weak? But using that glue that was really weak, it may have looked foolish to put it on a piece of paper, and I'm sure the first post-it at 3 a.m. looked kind of foolish because it kept falling down. But today, we recognize that there is value there. And if you'd been so concerned about looking foolish by proposing a weak glue on a piece of paper, the post-it would never have been created. Lastly, believing I'm not creative. Well, if you believe you're not creative, you're probably shutting your mind off to the possibility of being creative. You're probably shutting the mind off to the idea and the prospect of playing. Be creative. Just let it flow. If you believe that's what you're going to be, chances are you're probably going to have a better chance to get there. It's a whole self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't believe you're creative, then you won't let yourself be creative. What I have here, and there's a one in our textbook. You can use the one in the textbook for fun because I believe they give you answers. This is a different one. This one you guys don't have the answers to. I had the answers. What I want you to do is in your groups, you're going to discuss different word puzzles here. Now I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to do the top left one. What is that word puzzle? Well, hot under the collar. You see collar, hot, 115 degrees temperature. That's pretty hot. And it's underneath collar, hot under the collar. This activity is really to have a little bit of fun. Let some of those creative juices flow. Don't be afraid of looking foolish in front of your group members. So in your groups, and by the way, this little diagram I will put up on Laulima so you don't have to look only on this portion of the video. Discuss it, and we'll see which group can come up with the most answers. Make it a little bit of a game. Make it fun. After this week, I will post the answers. You can see which ones you got, which ones you didn't. And hopefully, you should be able to get the vast majority of them. Now, creativity is good. And when it comes to business, we often use creativity or innovation to find that inspiration for coming up with a new business idea, business model. So I'm going to very quickly run through 6 different ways that we can often find inspiration out there. First off, old market, new way. You recognize there's an existing market out there, but can you think of a new way to address that market? The great thing, if the market's already there, you know that if you can find a new way, a better way to get there, people are going to like it, you're going to have customers. Goal is to offer an innovative way to address their needs, ideally in a way that others had not thought of. Well, there is a market out there for textbooks. And over the past 5 years, there have been many ways or many creative, innovative approaches to try to address the textbook market in a new way. You have textbook companies offering rentals, ebooks. You can buy your books on all these different channels, whether it be the standard Amazon or new websites created like Bookzingo, which I believe went bankrupt, cheap books, cheaptextbooks.com. This is a great way to address that market that all of students have, but address it in a new method. Old idea, new twist. Find an existing product or service and develop a new way to provide that same service to it. Keyword here is the service. Think about Hulu. Well, the product has always been there, those TV shows. But by streaming, taking advantage of the technology, putting a little twist on the way people get it, because many people still watch Hulu over their TVs. They're watching TV shows on TV, but it's not sent over either cable or regular broadcast. It's streamed to them. Craigslist. want ads. Same idea, it's always been there. How to get word out for things they had to sell, things you're looking for, and so forth. Well, we put a twist on it. Put it online, made it free. Craigslist has pretty much destroyed the classified ads in terms of a revenue source for many newspapers. And the one I have in the middle, I just really like it. It's called the Victor Multi-Kill. Many of you may have seen some videos of this I show all the time. The old concept here is you can build a better mousetrap, the world will come to your door. So the idea is you got to kill the mice, but there's a new twist to it. I'll put a link to this presentation up on Laulimo. It's an interesting concept. Old resource, new way. So toss aside the traditional way of thinking about using an existing resource and somehow find a new way to use it that can start or launch a new business idea. So on the island, or on the big island of Hawaii, there's a NELHA, Natural Energy Lab Hawaii Authority. What they do is, for research, energy research, they pump deep seawater up to the surface and use it for the research in terms of energy creation and so forth. For the longest time, people decide, well, if you have all this cold water coming up, which is very clean water, we can use it to do aquaculture, growing fish on land, or fish farming. So there are many businesses built up around NELHA who just pumping up this water and selling it to these fish farms. Because you figure if you have this cold water, great way to use it is to grow something in it. Key example, Big Island abalone. Well, different farms out there realize, or different business ideas, that we're using this new resource, or rather the old resource, cold water. How can we use it in a different way? Instead of growing things in it, what else can we do with it? The most successful one has been deep seawater. Kona Deep and other companies, what they've done is taken this water, which is ultra clean, ultra pure, high in mineral content, desalinated it, and selling it. So as crazy as it sounds, bottled water is one of Hawaii's top exports. It's coming from that old resource, the cold water that now has pumped up from the bottom of the ocean, but instead of using it in the way we traditionally think about using cold water to grow fish in, they're using the water itself. New way to use that resource. A more creative option is Kona Cold Lobster. On the surface, you think Kona Cold Lobster, they must be growing lobsters, because lobsters from Maine, they're used to cold water, you can use it to grow them. And that's true, that's what they started at, but they began to fail because it wasn't very profitable. Lobsters take too long to grow. What they did instead is they recognized we can use this resource, the cold water, but what we're really using it isn't to grow things, but to keep things cold as a cooling agent, to quote, recharge these lobsters as they fly all the way from the opposite side of the United States, thousands of miles. Usually when the lobsters get here, they're near death, they're not doing too well, they're not healthy, and they're sold to restaurants. Kona Cold will keep the lobsters penned up using the cold temperature to recharge them before selling them back out onto the market, more lively, with a fresher meat, fresher taste. Old resource, new way to use it, they're doing very well. Your pain is their pain. Recognizing if you have a problem in your life, chances are other people out there probably have the same problem. If you can find a way to fix your problem, well, people are going to enjoy it. It could be a great business opportunity, and of course you can expand upon it and take in further directions. Ergo Baby. A mother on Maui had this problem. She had to carry her child. She developed a backpack carrier system, which by today's standards seems pretty common, but back then she was one of the early innovators. She did it for herself, so she could always be able to carry her child around, whether she's going running errands and so forth. But then she realized that her method, which is very ergonomic, was great and other people wanted the product. She developed her business around her child carriers and eventually sold it for millions upon millions of dollars. Took her pain, or her problem, of finding a way to carry her child as she went around doing household work, such as gardening in the picture, realized that other people had that same desire, had a need for a product that addressed that, built her business upon it. Create a new market. The problem with creating a new market, well, we'll get to the problems first. What it is you realize you find an unaddressed need out there, you create a product or service that fills that need, and you create, provide it, and market it like crazy. I like to use the example of Beachbody. Remember Home Fitness? So Home Fitness took the world by storm with their Home Fitness DVDs because they made the argument people want to get exercise. But in order to go to the gym, you have to get your stuff together, drive down there, go to the gym, drive home, unpack, do your laundry. It takes a lot of time. So for that 45-minute workout, it's really taking closer to an hour and a half to 2 hours. They realized that they could do things like home videos, Insanity, P90X, Hip Hop Abs, give people good workouts at home. Something that people didn't realize. It could save time and also be fun, energetic, keep them healthy. And with the DVDs out there, it gave the technology where you could feel like you're in a group with other people, with very charismatic fitness trainers. Well, for Beachbody, it's been very successful. The company's doing incredibly well. The only problem with creating a new market is you have to spend a lot of money or energy resources on marketing because it's a problem that people don't quite recognize. You have to tell them this is the problem we have. This is the product we have to address it. And of course, then you had to go through the rest of the marketing process, distribution, getting it to them, and so forth. But when successful, it's a great way to start or find inspiration for a business. So that's going to wrap things up, but I did want to talk about one of the activities I'm going to have you do in your groups. This is an opportunity scanning exercise, and this is actually a true situation, a true case study for a project I ran, for a project I did about 5 years ago for a company based out in the South Pacific. They came to a group I was working with and said, you know what? We have a private island, a private atoll, and that's actually a picture of what it looks like. It's in the South Pacific. It's beautiful, pristine, untouched water. Currently, we use it for aquaculture, fish farming. And by now, you probably get a sense I've done some work in aquaculture. The problem is, well, we're farming our fish there. We have all this land, clean water, beautiful beaches, and nothing's being done with it. We want to come up with new business ideas that we can use here to create more revenue for a company, for our organization. What can we do? And so we gave them an idea, and you hear about that idea a little bit later on in the semester. But what I want you to do in your groups is if somebody gave you this resource, a beautiful, private South Pacific atoll, what would you do? Now, a little background about it. The place has its own airfield. In other words, you can land airplanes there, small airplanes, not big ones. They do have some lodging and staff who are on site because they had lodging for when people come and visit, as well as staff to take care of the fish farms. The size of the atoll is about 5 miles by 8 miles, so it's pretty big. Notice in the middle, you have that water. It's about 25 square miles worth of water in the middle of the atoll. Looking in the picture where it sees the dark blue, that's really, really deep water. Along the rim of the atoll, because these are volcanic atolls, it does stick out, so you do have your dry land. It also has the reefs for about maybe 50 yards before it starts getting real deep. The water is absolutely pristine and clean and pure. One thing we do need to keep in mind, though, is the water does have a lot of sharks, so there's a limited amount of swimming and things you can do in there, though water recreation sports is fine. For this project to be realistic, imagine you have a total of $1 million in cash. So building a large luxury resort is not an option. Other things to consider, you want to, because it's a private atoll, the people who own it don't want you to pollute the water, bring too much people in. They're just looking for a nice small business that can pull in some money on the side while they're doing their fish farming. So with that, in your groups, think about it. What would you do? Where do you come with your creative ideas? Where do you find inspiration for possible business opportunities? Okay. So that concludes this presentation. You do have a bunch of group assignments to discuss in your groups. It should be an interesting discussion to have. Feel free to be creative. Use creative processes. Talk about the barriers to creativity. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of looking foolish. Come up with ideas, because that's just what we want to see. Exercise your opportunity scanning ability. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys soon.